Okay, I think we're live. Like, woohoo! We're live. We're good to go. Press the multiple buttons, all the red things, and we'll see, like, in an hour's time if this actually works. But, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first TapTapKaboom video podcast chat interview thing. I'm not quite sure exactly what this is going to look like now or in the future, but our very first guest is Scribble Warlock. Hello, Scribble.
What's up, Tap Tap? It's good to chat with you. I am Scribble Warlock.
I'm excited. I'm pumped about this. Like, so when people meet you for the very first time, maybe at a bar, a coffee place, like they say, hi, like my name is Bob, like what's your name and what do you do? Like, how do you answer that question?
I usually say my name's Gunner and they say what? And they might say something like, the only Gunner I know is a dog's name, something silly like that. And then I usually say artist illustrator. That's my go-to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when do you bring in Scribble Warlock?
I usually don't, unless they ask, if they're like, hey, can I see your art? What's your name? Like, where can I find it? Then I say Scribble Warlock. I kind of like keeping it coy. Whereas like on social media, I'm Scribble Warlock everywhere. And so I like that there's these sort of two different personalities, which is something that I've always been really not concerned with, but interested in, be it that I wear prescription yellow glasses. Identity is a very fun, strange thing that we get to play with. And being an artist, you get to be your own like identity.
I mean, I would love to, chat more about this. Like, tell me more about this identity kind of thing. I read this book called The Alter Ego Effect and how like someone could wear a hat or glasses or whatever. And when they put that item on, it changes who they are, like the ponytail or the earrings or the black shirt or whatever. Do you have anything like that? Is it the yellow glasses?
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, I've been pretty amorphous with style, constantly changing my hair, dyeing my hair, wearing different clothes, trying different things.
Pink for a while, right?
It's been pink. It's been blonde.
You're lucky you've got hair. It's good.
Well, so that's actually funny too. I started losing some hair because of alopecia. And so I had this like hole in the back of my head and I got really scared and lost a lot of my beard too. But I can still do the mustache. And
what is alopecia? I don't know what that is.
It is the funny scientific term for hair loss, and it can be caused by they don't know anything, stress, diet, underlying health issues.
Is it temporary hair loss?
Or is that just it can be so. So there's like the first kind, and then there's the fullest kind, and the fullest kind is like your entire body you lose hair, so you become like a naked mole rat.
I met somebody like that.
Yeah, which honestly sounds kind of like a superpower once you think about it. You don't have to worry about hair anymore. Obviously, there's probably some trauma that you have to go through, but afterwards, you kind of won. I think you don't have to buy hair products.
I do agree with you. I'd love to know, from a person who's been through that, like what their perspective is. I know that when I met this person, I met him before with hair. And I was like, who are you? And he's like, like I've just like lost all my hair, like literally no hair. And I was like, oh, I can now see your eyes. But it was crazy how I just couldn't identify him. But let's go back to what you were saying about all the different hair colors.
Yes.
And then.
So identity through ornamentation. I wear some of my own tattoos. And then I have Keith Haring, which is my biggest inspiration, tattooed right on my chest as a sort of, power source, a reminder of the core beliefs I have for art and art being for everyone. And that art is just is something that I want to be a part of my identity. But I've always really enjoyed the idea of like heroicism, especially when you're growing up as a kid and you're watching all your favorite cartoons and you wish you could be, any of them, Batman, Goku, whoever really just like you attach to as a kid, and then realizing that you can find that sort of power in various ways, be it a mask that you might wear physically. There's the wondrous thing where you can be anonymous in the digital age, and you can just be behind a profile picture, or even more so, you could be the mysterious hooded figure. You kind of get to be whatever you want, and so I've just always really loved that, because as an introverted person, you try to find ways to help yourself become, or at least express, the way you want to in the world.
Yeah. And so the yellow glasses, has that carried on or always been present?
Since I got prescription glasses, since I was 18, I've been wearing these yellow glasses. And for the longest time, my social handle was the boy who sees yellow, which was a play on the Jungian archetype of the Jungian child, like this sort of optimistic, bright-eyed person that we all are in some sense, like one shape of our identity. And I realized that I wasn't the kid that I wanted to be anymore, like the sitting down, playing with Godzilla toys and watching cartoons and being really full of just joy and creativity. But I could find that in my art. And so I started to realize that was a place for where you could be that person. You could create, happiness and all the fun stuff, which you are very familiar with as well, Rich.
I am. And I think you've just your words are they're penetrating into my mind, and they're seeping through to my heart. And I'm like, yes, what he said. At the moment, it just feels like your way with words have just captured a lot of what I feel and what I've gone through. And I'm just wow, I love this. I'm feeling it. This is amazing. And one of the courses that I teach is how to code your first website. And I ask students to pick their favorite movie character or cartoon character to make their website, because it's fun. And then if you have to make, a serious website, it's not so fun. So what is your favorite cartoon character or hero? Do you have maybe a top 3 that you identify with or that you loved as a kid?
Yeah, there's the list is endless. Yeah, but I would say by different eras. When I was a kid, I was really fell in love with Toonami and Adult Swim, and so was watching a lot of Dragon Ball Z as a kid. And so really just fell in love with Goku and Vegeta, and really just the sort of insanity that was becoming a Super Saiyan. And then I mentioned earlier Godzilla, which is great to see such a wonderful resurgence of Godzilla in media. Specifically, last year, Godzilla -1 came out, and that was my favorite movie of the year. The sort of return to the original. And so that character. And then as of late, finally finished all of Adventure Time with my partner, Joy. And so I have a really strong place in my heart for Finn. I love everything that Finn and Jake embody, and I definitely, wish I could be Finn at times.
Oh yeah, definitely. I kind of feel like there's a 2-part thing with me. I love being Finn because I'm the hero in my own story, but I also like helping people in their stories. And when I first started TapTapKaboom, I kind of felt like I was Lucius Fox, Batman's R&D guy. You go do your thing, Batman. I'll blow shit up. And then teach you how to use this kind of stuff. I'm having fun, but I want you to, go save the world. So that's really cool. I love that. And how do you take all of this inspiration? I know you also play video games. How do you take that into your art world? Is there quite a direct line, or do you just let it I don't know, mix in your brain, in your heart, in your dreams, and then it comes out? What is that process like?
I think it's definitely a big mixing pot. But I think this is a good time to distinguish that I think creatives have 2 modes, or at least in my creative experience. There's the creative and there's the creator and the consumer. And I think it's impossible to be one forever. And I think innately when we consume, we want to create. And so I find myself going through like ebb and flow periods of like, sprint like creation that might be a month to 2 months long. And then there might be like kind of like a month of back burner. It doesn't really feel like burnout, because burnout typically in my mind has like a negative connotation. But it more feels like you've exercised your creative juices and now you need to replenish them, be it how you will. And so for me, what I'll often find is you'll be consuming something, right? Maybe you're watching a show that you really love. Like, let's take Adventure Time, for example. You might sit down to start rewatching something that you were like, man, I really loved that. I want to revisit it. And before you can even get a third of the way through, you're back to creating, because you're like sparking the things. Yeah. I
love that. Like the idea of sparking. Again, it goes back to TapTapKaboom. It's like what helps people create. And I some of the things that you said there was really cool. Like it's like a repetitive circle. So you consume, so you could create. And then while you're creating, you get to a stage where you're done, I have so many questions. I'm like, where do I even like stop and go? Do I go back? Do I go forward now? But let's go forward. I may ask some stuff, related to tattoos and things like that. But the idea of it being like an exercise, like you get to the end of something, now you need to rest, recuperate, rejuvenate, like stock back up. You need to get like re-inspired. You need to like get those creative juices, flowing again. It sounds a lot like a marathon or a sprint, like a runner or something like that. And recently I've been thinking a lot about athletes and how diligent they are, how disciplined they are, because they want to be the world's best. And so they'll change their diets, they'll change their sleep. And I'm reading this amazing sleep book about, pro athletes, especially footballers. And I'm just like, whoa, these guys like just take everything to the next level. And then I was thinking about supermodels, and I was like, oh, like these women most of the time, but probably men as well, like they can't eat a certain amount of stuff, or they have to eat this or have to eat that. They have to like hit the gym and work out for a day or an hour a day for like, 4 or 5 days a week. Like it sounds so intense, but it's like that is their profession. That is the thing that is going to get them money, going to get them a job, going to get them, more success. Like, do you ever think about inspiration as well, this is what I need to do. Like I'm an artist. I need to eat really good stuff so that I can produce really good stuff. When I say eat, like consume media, content, video games. Like, do you ever think like that, or do you just do whatever you're interested in?
No, yeah, I definitely think as I am maturing in my flesh sack and thinking about like the world differently, but also maturing as an artist. I think considering what you consume is really important. I love all of these analogies to, professionalism and fitness. A dear friend of mine, his name is Tom, and during the pandemic, I was at the peak of my Twitch stream. And I wanted to do a 12-hour drawing. And I asked him, I was like, he had been watching, and I was like, what do you think? Like, and he was like, you definitely need to start considering drawing in time as like a workout. Like you need to be prepared mentally, like you need to sleep well, you need to have snacks, it's the same thing. Like if you were mountain biking for a long distance, you need to be nourishing yourself in a proper manner. And that's like pretty on the head with like what you should consume to what you should put out. But like in a content example, one of my favorite games of all time and hated games of all time, League of Legends, is something that I have always had a love-hate relationship with because of my addictive consumption. Because when you're playing something, let's say competitive, at least for me, you can trick your brain to thinking I'm getting better and I'm winning. So in that same amount of time you're playing a game that is making you angry, I started to reprogram to do more drawing. And so that was a big thing for me in college that I learned, like, okay, I'm consuming this because I love it, or rather that I'm interested in it, and now it's becoming an addiction. Like it's becoming something bad that is not helping my creative process. It's not helping me as a person. And so I think it's like, it's different for everybody too. Cause like substance use and consumption and all these things it is a personal journey, for one to discover your own relationship with the things. You know, you can ask a doctor what you should and shouldn't do, or your therapist, right? But at the end of the day, is like, are you having thoughts about the thing that you are consuming? Like, are you thinking about that game a lot? Are you thinking about like going to get a drink every day? Like, where's your brain at? And then, like, for me, in that artist maturity, I've just been trying to reflect more and more. Like, I'm not where I want to be as the professional artist that I want to strive to be. And so instead of coming from like a shame place, I'm trying to learn to come from okay, what are ways you can reprogram the system that is Gunner, the system that is Scribble Warlock, to like to improve the output of your creativity or your relationship to it. Because the answer isn't always more. It's not like, okay, I need to draw more, I need to work out more, it's like, well, no, what do you want? And like for me, I would like to be an artist till I'm nice and old. And I think like having systems in place, like, okay, this is my attempt to do daily drawing. This is the like content I should and shouldn't consume. And it's not something immediately. You have to talk to yourself a lot about it. Which journaling and sketching, I think, are one and the same thing.
Man, I love this. Have you read a book called Atomic Habits?
I have, yes. It's an awesome book.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of James Clear stuff, like right there. It's like, I think he has a quote like, you fall to the level of your systems or your habits. Like you have all of these grand plans and ideas, but like unless you put a system in place, like you can't get stuff done. You can't go where you want to go.
I feel that tremendously. And I think like I've seen my own successes, and then you fall short, or you fall even back to where you were, and you can sit in a lot of like negative feelings. And so I'm just trying to, as I continue to age, be more conscious of, okay, are these actions improving or affecting my creative career?
Yeah, I think it's like a mind shift, right? To be like, this is what I am paid to do professionally, a professional artist, a content creator, an illustrator, whatever, graphic designer. I'm a professional at this. I'm in the same league as a professional footballer, professional model, professional athlete. Like, how do I change my mind to become even better? And you see people at the top of their game in whatever profession, like earning a lot of money, but also the ability to do stuff like that. If you've watched any kind of graphic design or like masterclass kind of stuff by the Pentagram, I don't know, partners or whatever, you just like look at stuff and be like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Minimize the size here, change this, take that out, and you're like, damn, that was quick. And that might take me like 10 hours to like figure all that out. They do it in like, I don't know, 30 seconds because they're so good, And you see artists at the top of their game, like they don't spend a long time necessarily on paintings or their art, but when they create it, it makes a massive impact, or it speaks to a whole bunch of people, or it affects people deeply, And so what other kind of stuff have you been doing? I know on Twitter, I saw a couple of things about exercise, eating healthy. Does that kind of fall into the same realm, or is that kind of separate to, okay?
Yeah,
Can you
I
tell
would
us more
say
about that? Because, as an artist, it's like, I don't want to exercise. I hear most artists, like maybe my inner artist saying, like, I don't want to exercise. That's lame. I want to draw, or like, I want to watch stuff. Like, I love the inspiration stuff. I could watch Adventure Time for like 4 hours a day, but go for a 10-minute run? I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, it's been it's something that I started exploring a few years ago with great intent. and found myself to be in like the healthiest, best shape I'd ever been in. But I wasn't really doing it because I was like aware of it. It was fun. It was like I fell into the right place at the right time, was doing a lot of yoga, a lot of Pilates, and it was really enjoyable, which I think is the first thing with like any sort of movement is like, are you enjoying it? It's like, I mean, that's how I feel about art. I don't draw if I'm not enjoying it. Like I just stop, or like how impossible it is to get me to do something if it's like kind of boring. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. And so,
there's this book by Ali Abdaal. It's a famous YouTuber, doctor turned YouTuber, and he's got a book out, productivity book, but it's called Feel Good Productivity, like how to do more of what matters to you. And it's just like, if it's fun, if you like it, you'll do more. Like it's a very simple thing. But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And I think that's why it's like there's so many fun things in life, and it's really important to pair the like fun things with the professional things. And I like your use of the professional too. I think is a better sort of lens instead of productive. Like the grind culture, like you have to achieve more. Ba ba boo ba bee ba ba. Like, yeah, you're your own person. We're not all supposed to be Navy SEALs. But like as far as like changes of health have gone, yeah, honestly, I found myself in a place. I just experienced my 29th birthday, and thank you. And I found myself twice in that week drinking myself silly for the sake of celebration, but to my mental health detriment. And I reflected deeply on that like overconsumption and found that like I was probably doing that more than I needed to. And I've completely cut that out as a personal choice and paired that with taking a walk every day to try to look back on something that I had already achieved, which is like, I remember doing a whole year plus of yoga. How do I get back to that? Well, I don't really want to pay money to go to a studio, and I don't really love the YouTube videos, but a walk sounds nice. And so like I've been getting myself to do that every day, which has been honestly a blessing because especially being a work at home anything, you wake up and you have like, even if you have a different room where you work, you're in your all your wires are crossed, right?
Yeah.
And so getting some sunlight and some exercise and intermittent fasting, just being like, hey, you should just not eat for stress. You should eat when you're hungry, and then you should stop. Just try it out. Let's see if this system can work for me. And so far, a month in, the walking and the fasting and the healthier eating habits are going great. But thankfully, I'm also not doing it alone. I'm doing it with my partner, Joy. And I think that's a really big thing too, is like having, a friend, a loved one, a partner, anyone that's can be like a support system. You take it for granted because you're like, you're your own autonomous human. You're like, I'm the one doing things. I'm the one like making actions, but it's like everything is influencing you. And if you have someone else helping, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, to try to, especially like healthy eating or exercise by yourself, especially when your partner is actively like working against you, not intentionally, but if you're like, I'm going to get out of bed at 6 o'clock, and they're like, I'm going to stay here and sleep. Do you want to come cuddle me instead? And you're like, yeah, okay, I'll get up in 10 minutes. I'll get up tomorrow. I'll do that. Or like, yeah, I'm going to eat a salad. And they're like, cool, I'm eating this donut and this burger. So I think that's like a really, often overlooked, what do I say, like component of this successful or, successfully trying to change your habits. And I know that I did intermittent fasting for quite a while until I started exercising a lot. So I started with yoga. Actually, let's go back a little bit. I just had a really sore knee. It had been sore for a long time. I had a sore foot, like rugby injuries. So I went to a chiropractor eventually after a bunch of stuff didn't work. I had the posture of a banana, basically. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I think within 3 weeks, like I could run up and down the stairs again. I felt like a different human being. And one of the things the chiropractor said was that I asked her, like, do athletes come in here, or does anybody come in here and not have anything wrong? She's like, very seldom, but there are some people. I'm like, well, who are they? Like professional athletes? She was like, no, they have like messed up bodies. So I was like, well, then who? She said, happy people. And I was like, what? Happy people? Like, I'm happy, but I'm messed up. I'm like, so like, how do you, like, what's the definition of happiness? She's like, you live like a really balanced lifestyle. Like, you walk a lot, you get fresh air, you stand up, you move a lot. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't do any of that anymore. So she said, start walking like between 15 to 30 minutes every day, as just like, that's the exercise that I'm going to do, your homework. So I started doing that, and I started doing very light yoga, like 10 minutes at a time. Just like have this app on a TV, just 10 minutes. And now I'm like, I could do like an hour of yoga. I flipping love it.
Yeah.
But then that progressed, into Pilates, some other kind of exercise. Now we do like high intensity exercise or strength building, and I just feel so much better for my body's sake alone. But I know that when your body starts to take shape, it affects your mind, and when you start to prioritize the stuff that's outside of art, it starts to make your art better. It starts to like make your creativity better. And I know for me, like sleep has been a massive thing. I kind of now see it as like the fundamental thing that everything else is built on top of. Because if you sleep more, like you're less stressed, you're less hungry, you can make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you can then eat, again, more healthy. You can choose to drink water instead of other kinds of stuff. Like you have like the ability to make better decisions.
Yeah.
Have you seen like a direct impact, besides just feeling good, between your healthy choices and your creativity and what you're producing as an artist?
Oh yeah. Undoubtedly. I'm a very attention deficit person, and I hold a lot of anxiety. And so I've noticed that I am feeling a lot less anxious, especially when I'm getting out every day and doing something. It's what I find too is like, if I force myself to walk first, which again is like something that I would have done in the past, but like you are a biological set of systems, and if you fall out of those systems, they feel very foreign once again. And so knowing that it was an answer, but then kind of just still putting it off, probably added to the underlying, like, you don't feel good. Like, you should do different things, right? But like doing that instead of like waking up and going, hey, there's a drawing due, at the end of the week, or even worse, there's a drawing due today. You might go on that walk instead of sitting down and getting stressed right when you wake up, and then message the person saying like, hey, I need another 6 hours. But I'm feeling a lot better. I'll get it done. Also that too, I think, I had never worked commercially as a designer. But I've interacted with a number of people for projects or commissions, and being honest and communicative about, as much as you can, I know everybody has a different threshold, about where you are with your creativity or the project you're working on, is so good. Like this isn't grind culture. I mean, if you do have 12 projects on your desk and your graphic design boss needs it done, that's between you and your boss, right? But like, as far as a freelancer goes, everyone you're interacting with is a person too, and they usually understand.
Yeah, I mean, it would make complete sense if you were an athlete and you're like, my leg's a little bit injured today. I can't run, bud. It's like, okay, cool, I understand. We'll take it easy, or just rest up, and we want you to be at your peak, because when race day comes, we want you to race. And I know this is different for different kinds of athletes. Like Tour de France is like 3 weeks, like grueling 3 weeks. So like there's your 3 weeks, and there's a couple other races. But like I often think about Usain Bolt. He's got 100 meters, Like it takes what, like between 10 seconds, 11 seconds, I don't know, maybe 9 seconds now, I don't know. But it's so short. Like that's what he gets paid to do. Like that is what he's known for. That is his thing. He's got 10 seconds. Like that is mental. Like, sure, the Tour de France guys are going like, I don't know, 5 hours a day for 3 weeks, which is crazy in itself. But imagine having 10 seconds and like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's the Olympics done for you. Like the whole Olympics, you've got 10 seconds.
Yeah. To be fair, both of us draw pretty quickly. So
yeah. It's like
10 seconds is still insane. I don't
yeah. It's just like that whole mindset of like, well, instead of like taking 8 hours to do this drawing, I'm going to do it in 1 hour because I had a really good night's sleep last night. I watched some Adventure Time. I read this really interesting book about heroes. I'm reading this other nonfiction thing about business. They're all like commingling. I woke up, I had an amazing breakfast, or I didn't have breakfast because I'm intermittent fasting. I walked to the studio, or I did some yoga first, then I walked to the studio. By the time you get there, you've had, like, I have 2 glasses of water on my table at any given time because I need to hydrate. Like, water is good for you. So it's like all of these decisions then make you produce this piece that you love in, what, an hour? And people are like, wow, like, I can't do that. Or, oh, that only took an hour. You know, when people say, like, how long did that take you? It's like, yeah, it took me an hour, but it could have taken me 8 hours if I didn't have this great foundation on which to create on top of.
Yep. And in reference to the graphic design masterclasses earlier, the relationship to time something takes to the quality or the price or whatever, it's there is no relationship. No. Those two things are completely separated because you might be someone who is brand new to that technique, or you might be the 10,000 hours master and you know exactly what to do in Illustrator. I still don't know what to do in Illustrator.
Oh man, I used to know all of these things, and now it feels like I'm falling a little bit behind on some things. I kind of feel like I had a 7-year-old Mac and it didn't change, like nothing updated. Can you just keep everything there like it was? And I've met people like this. People are complaining about Adobe this and updates and AI, and some guys are like, yeah, I still use CS5. I'm like, CS5, like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, I don't even know if like CS5 would work on my Mac. I know that one of my Macs, it was all pixelated because everything went Retina, and then CS5 or CS6 was, really pixelated. It's like, I can't work like this.
Yeah.
So I just think, like that kind of stuff's it's incredible. And how, changing topic here a little bit, it's like, you don't need the latest kind of stuff. You need your creativity. You need to create stuff. Like the tools and stuff, they're like the 1 to 5%, but like the base, like the big foundation on top of which we create, it's really easy to change. Like sleep better, eat better, breathe better, drink better, move better. Relationships, also really important. Like all of those things are in our hands, no matter who we are, and we can directly like influence that.
On this subject, my mentor and professor at the University of Georgia, when I was there, Joseph Norman, he had a number of wonderful isms and phrases about art, but one of them was, what does it take to be an artist? What does it take to become a master, right? And he laid it out simply, and I think it's taken me a while to realize that it's not so simple, but it's mastery of your craft, which is what we're talking about. Like, what is your system? Like, how are you doing this? Mastery of your aesthetic. Like, what is the language you're using, right? And then the mastery of your medium. You figured out your tool through and through. And like, that's what it takes to tell stories as an artist. And I think for the last decade, especially, I've been focused on aesthetic and medium. And like, it started out for a long time with just like black pens on paper, turned into paint pens. And then now it's like, oh, there's a whole world of digital at your fingertips. Thanks to Procreate. Huge shout out because it is for someone like myself who gets bored really easily, especially with UI interfaces, being able to just be like, crayon, and then you have it right there, and you don't really have to think about it. Yeah, but in relation to the mastery of craft, it's something that like I think I'm entering. While I have been exploring that over the years, I'm entering a period now where I understand that to take my life to the next professional level is the systems have to be really sound, because otherwise, it's okay if art isn't the thing that makes me money, because you can go get a job, but you have to recognize your limits and what you want from your craft. Yeah. And I think for me, I very much am like, no, I see how professionals do this. I've been a professional for how many years now? You can change, you can improve, like you can keep becoming a different version of yourself, for the sake of your art. And if at any point you're like, I don't want to do this art anymore, I want to do some new art, cool.
Yeah, just check it out, do something new. Like, it's very important to do what you want and to like primarily know what you want. I think like tons of us like don't actually know what we want, and we do a whole bunch of stuff out of habit or because other people are doing it or because, you know, it's the only thing in front of us. And I think like that is one of the biggest questions that if you answer right, like it then gives you the pull to be like, how do I make this happen? Like I had this like personal dream of producing illustrations for the Apple Store. Like I want my stuff big, Apple big, you know, like, or if Procreate does a massive show with their new stuff, like to have my stuff everywhere big. It's like, well, how do you make that happen? Like, what does that look like? Like, can we work backwards? And I think when I was younger, I think a lot of us, when we were younger, like 18, 20, 25 even, like you can get away with a lot. Like you can get away with like 3 hours of sleep, like eating badly, partying, drinking, and you're still able to create. But as I've got older, like I went to bed at 3 o'clock on the weekend because I was with some buddies in the woods, which was amazing. Had some amazing conversations, but it wrecked me for 2 days afterwards. I was like, can't do anything, can't think, you know? I had some beers with a friend last night that I haven't seen for 19 years. And again, it's like a good occasion to drink some beers. But today I was like, oh, I feel like a slug. I had an afternoon nap. It was just like, I didn't feel good. Like, and I was like, oh, it's probably because I'm 36. I'm getting on, you know? And some people are like, that's still spring chicken age. But it's like just acknowledging like who you are, where you're at, and what your body needs and what your mind needs to pursue this, you know, next step of your career.
Yeah. And like you said, you see other people doing it and you constantly want to live up to what other people are capable of. But it's like, what are you capable of? Like, I completely agree. The hangover that I get from anything now, from, you know, even just socializing has grown over the years, you know, like you have a different, you change. Yeah, but I put my mind and body through the ringer in college, thinking like to be an artist is to be a rock star. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful I'm still here. And I'm grateful for all the weird things that I like saw or explored, and the relationship I have to my own psyche because of it. But you change, and it's okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like this idea of maturing, it's starting to take, you know, roots in my head. It's like, oh yeah, I am maturing. I'm getting better at stuff. I'm making better decisions. I'm creating systems. I have a goal. I'm becoming more disciplined. And even the idea of doing yoga for 10 minutes, it's not just that it helps your mind and your body, but it also trains you to do hard stuff or to do stuff that you don't necessarily want to do. So when you get comfortable with that, it becomes easier to then draw for 4 hours or to go through the hard slug of updating your website, because your body and your brain is now used to doing stuff that it's hard and is difficult.
Yeah. I mean, that's I think every artist's purgatory is doing something with their website.
It's like a different mindset, man.
Yeah. Like, or social media. I'm working on some reels for the first time in a long time, and I'm like, let's just have fun. Let's see. And if I don't keep up with it, that's fine. But I'm like, I gotta give it a shot.
Yeah, and I think again systems come into place, and I think for me the biggest struggle is, oh, I had this great idea, I made it. What do you mean only 200 people saw this? Do you know how much effort? This was such a good idea. You guys, come on, algorithm, come on. And then it's just like I stop because I'm like, well, this is stupid.
Yep. Positive feedback loop. If you don't get what you want, you're like, meh.
Yeah. So then it comes back to doing hard stuff for a long time. Like your first day doing push-ups, you do like 3, and you're like, I'm dead, I'm dying. But you never expected to do 100 push-ups on the first day. It's the kind of the same thing with reels or whatever else you're doing.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Artists, marketing for artists it's difficult because you don't get that social feedback or the positive feedback straight away.
Yeah, which is actually surprising to me when I started using Twitter 3 years ago, or X. I really like it because it is just how do I say it? Poo poo pee pee. You just do what you just post things, and like it's a lot. I just feel like the strain and the care that I had, especially for something like Instagram, I finally got to deprogram thanks to Twitter, and I'm hoping to apply that to other things. And I also something that I always catch myself doing now, reflecting that I always would do, is you think you have to be on every social media. You think you need to be in every platform. Like there's the new one, Kara or Sarah. I don't even know what it is. And then there's the blue thing, and there's like on Web3 we have like Arena and like Blue Sky and all. Like I'm like you know what? I don't care.
Yeah. There's a lot, and it feels like the guys and girls who are on there and like dominating, you always look at one and be like, they're doing well. Then you look at LinkedIn or something else, and like, they're doing well. But then you think, I want to do well at all of them. Like, how do I do this all? It's just like, it's impossible. But now let's like make this shift to Twitter, to X, to Web3. Like, what was your journey from being a drawing with black pens, drawing with paint markers, to digital art, NFTs, Web3? And I'm just going to like throw it out there, king shit, 404s, like that's quite an arc, and for somebody who's like, what is Web3? What are NFTs? Like, how do I do this? Like, what was that journey like?
Yeah. It all happened fairly quickly. At least the digital and Web3 for me happened simultaneously. It explored a bit of like, the Adobe softwares over the years, especially in college. Did a number of drawings on a drawing tablet here and there, but always kept coming back to physical as like, this is my medium of choice. This is where I felt most comfortable. And I think a big part of that was because of my my love for Keith Haring and fellow artists like that, who were focused on like semi-automatic drawing, being able to just produce whatever they thought about. And so like me being able to do daily drawings with pen, it started to feel like I was making a dent in learning art, because I was like, I have all of these stacks of paper. I have these sketchbooks that are full. I have an archive that like is giving me the feedback that I need. And then a dear friend and collaborator of mine, Josiah Soren, who is a musician here in the Atlanta area, he had been asking me for well over a year to start dabbling in Web3, and at the same time, I started dabbling in like digital artwork for him, for all of his singles and like EPs and albums, to do the cover illustrations. And after about a year of nagging, he really got to me, and I was like, "Let's do it. Let's try it." I am not. The only apprehension I had towards anything crypto related was the growing concern of environmental problems. Like at that time, because it really exploded, and then people were talking about like, look how much electricity you're using to run these massive Bitcoin mines, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just like, I don't really understand the technology, but like if a bunch of people are pointing fingers saying like, ew, bad crypto, don't do crypto art, I was like, maybe I'm not ready to get into that.
Yeah.
And once I found out that there were a number of chains, which the one I ended up on is Avalanche, which are basically, energy efficient and net neutral in some sense. But at the end of the day, like, that's a totally deeper conversation, right? That consumer being responsible for the environmental impact of global companies. We really shouldn't be so hard on ourselves.
It's really difficult because then you're like, sorry, I'm not going to eat any of this food. I'm not driving any cars. Apple, nope. You're just like, oh damn.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you've seen The Good Place, like the best person on earth was also still going to hell because everything that they did had like a negative impact. Anyway, long conversation. Let's move on.
Yeah, and so the apprehension fell, and I dove in. Ended up making my first generative collection, which was called Jazzy Beans, which was these funny sort of Fairly Odd Parents style, or rather Butch Hartman style illustrations of beans that had little lo-fi theme songs that went with them. And it was really cute and fun. And it just kind of opened, my brain to procreate, which was a big hurdle for me. Was those like Adobe UIs were really wonderful, and I loved what you could do, or they weren't wonderful. The programs are wonderful and what you could do with them, but the way my brain is wired, I was having a really hard time trying to even be excited about learning. And so Procreate came into my life, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so I got simultaneously excited about digital art because of a program, and then I was excited about a new medium of art that I hadn't thought of, which is generative art. Being able to have a singular composition comprised of thousands of assets. That was a mind blow, which is great for someone like myself who does draw a lot, being like, oh, wow, so you can revisit an idea theoretically infinitely because of because of the iterations by pairing different assets together. And then I was like, okay, cool. I like the technology that I'm drawing with. I like the medium that the art is going in. And then I started liking the community too, because there was a lot of conversation about art. I felt like I was in art school again, where it was like, oh, this isn't just, number go up. This is like people who actually are interested in meeting creatives and like talking about what their stories are being told. And it all just started really falling into place the last 3 years. And prior to that, I still have a lot of these, but prior to that, it's like just thousands of drawings on paper. And
hey, Scribble, I need to interrupt you because I really need to go pee.
Yes.
So guys, I'm going to go pee. Otherwise, I'm not going to listen to anything anyone's saying. So I will be back. I'm like 2.
There he goes. He's off to pee. Yeah, I might as well just finish saying the thing, and then Rich can catch up. I think that's a fun way to do it. Yeah, started falling in love with all the things at the same time after years of drawing, and realizing that you don't have to just draw on paper and scan it in and, get that high quality 600 DPI. You could just straight up start creating digital files. And the wonderful thing about digital art is the systems allow you to cheat. You can do all these sorts of things like pen smoothing and all these different brush textures and all these things that would take hours of texturizing on like a physical canvas or piece of paper that you could do in a matter of seconds. And that's not to say I don't still have the same love that I have for physical art. But yeah, it's been a wonderful journey, realizing that you can have, you can make infinite worlds just with an iPad. And I have a very old iPad, which makes it even better. Rich and I talked about that earlier. where the technology, you don't need the newest greatest thing to be an artist, which is awesome. You just need the drive, and then you just need to put it somewhere, which is amazing. Yeah. One thing I will. Oh, he's back. That's what I'm talking about. That was the world record fastest pee.
It's like, can I last 15 minutes? I can last. No, I can't. I can last. I'm gonna last. No, I can't. Don't. Yeah, need to go.
That's okay. I gave the
still
rundown. Oh, they were still
which
in.
Was great. So I listened to the whole thing. Luckily, the microphone wasn't on as well, but because I've done that before in a Twitter space, that was awkward. But what I heard was, which is really cool, is this idea of like cheating, which I love. It's like, wow, these digital tools allow us to cheat, to make things that we couldn't necessarily do with paper, paint in real life without getting dirty and messy and stuff, which is also fun, but it allows you to experiment and explore a lot. Would you explore or carry on with that theme?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So my exit thesis in art school was 2 large rectangular prisms that were covered in scribbles and drywall and charcoal and mud and dirt and clay, and they were these very textural sort of ancient artifacts in a sense. Wow. And that was like a sort of pushing off point for me, thinking about this idea of pentimenti, which is like where you can like build up the layers, or a different word is palimpsest, which is an architectural word for the historical layers of the walls that change over time. So like the paint and the material and the advertisements that are placed on it. And like that record has always been something that's really important to me. And then so being able to translate that digitally very quickly is just wonderful. You're no, I don't even know. I can't even think of the phrase. You're not afraid of textures in your work, and you are a very big proponent of it. And it's amazing what you can do with just a very flat single line drawing, and then you add textures to it or color in a way that you couldn't, physically. And I also think it opens a world of opportunity for anyone who is like, differently abled, either because of finances or because of physicality. Being able to just like explore things in like this tiny little, virtual realm, it's real. And connecting that to Web3, I was always very interested in the digital collection aspect of it. Being a gamer for a long time, buying skins for characters you like. Digital ownership has always been something that like hasn't been very foreign to me. And I similarly, like if you are limited in space or you're limited in, finances or whatever it may be, you can still have the sort of like commodities of the real world in the digital sense. And while they might not be, physical to touch right now until we have special gloves, that doesn't discredit the impact that it could have on you and your story.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about ownership, collectibles, you created this thing called King Shit. It is an ERC 404. And if anyone's here who's like not into this, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, could you give us a rundown of how that happened? What it is? Like, I see you've got ducks with crowns on behind you. There's actually a whole bunch of stuff behind you I'm very interested in. But let's talk about the ducks. Let's talk about King Shit. Like what is it? Like, tell us.
Yeah. So that was the latest NFT project that I collaborated on with friend and developer Moonbags, who's also an Avalanche native. King Shit is the first ERC 404 to be on Avalanche. Or no, it wasn't. First ERC 404 PFP on Avalanche. And what that means is a different type of contract. And in the simplest of terms, it is a liquid NFT. So it is simultaneously a token and an NFT. So when you own a certain amount of a token, which could be set to 1, set to 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, you also have the digital representation through a work of art. That could be the same work of art over and over again that everyone shares. Or it could be, in this instance, where we did a generative PFP project where they are these pompous rubber ducks who believe they are the kings of all, and they are covered in ridiculous patterns and smoke a lot of cigarettes, and they're just these goofy little, pieces of shit. and yeah, how that came about is, sorry to interrupt.
No, carry on.
Since my time on Avalanche, Moonbags and I have gotten close, especially in the sense of experimentation. And so there have been a number of times where I've been able to learn about, different aspects of different contracts or different ways we can make art projects. And then I get to be the guinea pig. And I'm a really big fan of that. In the same sense we've been talking about, experimenting and discovery is like my easiest way to have fun when it comes to art.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course I want to try this new thing that nobody understands.
Seriously, like there's so many things that you've said over the course of this episode that I'm like, yep, that's me. And that's like a big thing. Like if I can learn something or like test something out, experiment, I'm like, cool, I'm in, let's go for it. And also your marketing, like for King shit, has been like next level. Like I don't quite know how to explain it, but I love it. I love seeing what you create, because there's the profile pictures, like the artwork that's part of the contract, part of the collection. But then you're creating a whole bunch of stuff on top of that to market it. It's fun. It's memeable. Like,
yeah.
How did that come about? Like, what was your approach to that?
So to paint a picture, when I had my own art studio in college, on my door was a spray painted stencil of Pepe.
Okay.
This was before alt-right Pepe. This is before they tried to kill our boy. And I was super infatuated with just meme culture. I loved everything that was happening on YouTube. I loved, getting lost on Newgrounds and every other degenerate website, like growing up with these things. And like, so it's just a part of the modern era of communication, is just shit posting and stupid characters. And so being able to make a lot of art over the last few years on Avalanche, and be able to like share my voice as an artist, and then being able to create a space where I got to return to making memes was a really special sort of release for me, where it was like, not only was I reminding anyone who's been looking at my work, but mostly for myself that like, I'm a goober and like, I love memes. And so then like being able to riff on an idea, these pompous ducks, and then just in my workflow for the last few months, it has slowed down quite a bit because seasons change. But my workflow had become looking at memes for an hour and then ripping 12 of them or so, putting them in a folder, and then drawing from them, and just like either tracing their basic shapes or like just making things very quickly and very crudely. And it became a nice like return to like, oh yeah, this is how you literally learn to draw. Like when you were a kid, you traced things on the TV, and so it felt like a nice little personal, like way to feel like a kid again.
That's I love the idea of being a kid, and I often try help people recapture what it was that made them feel like a kid, whether it was like picking up a video camera or like an instant camera or something like that, or drawing, painting, playing video games, like whatever it is. It's like you had that thing that made you a kid. And so like that totally makes sense. Like when something is that fun and you feel like a kid again, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a slog. It's just like, this is fun. I get to do this. It doesn't take long. I don't have any kind of level of or standard like that I'm trying to reach. I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you create a lot of stuff, and oftentimes it's good stuff just because you're creating a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no your inhibitions are gone and your expectations are nil, right? And you just let it happen. And it's the way it should be some of the time. Because then the great part is that like you get to use your adult brain and go, okay, what's this cool idea I discovered in kid mode? And how can I extrapolate on that and turn it into something wild? And then you just like, maybe you're excited enough to work on it right away. Or maybe it's something you catalog in a sketchbook or a journal and you say like, okay, I'm going to get to this at some point. And that's what I also love too, is like recognizing that everything is a finished piece of art. I think when I was younger, that was really difficult. It was always like, oh my God, masterpiece. Oh my God, look how stupid this is. This is perfect. And it's impossible you just get lost in it. And now it's more realizing that like, even if you just wrote something down, it's a piece of art that could end up being made, or even just the writing it in your journal is a very good thing.
Yeah. I think there's this idea for me as someone who's like ADHD that not every idea has to be acted on right away. Which like maybe it's just like common and not like common knowledge for most people, but for me I was like, oh, I guess not. Like I would have an idea, I'd just open a tab, I'd Google it. I have an idea, I'm like, oh, that's great. I'd write it down, I'd start working on it the next day. And I was like, oh, like this is ADHD to the extreme. Like seriously, like I can be like pouring like hot water,
yes.
And then I'm like, oh, look at that over there. And I'm like, oh, I can't do the next thing because I've got my hands full. Maybe I should just finish pouring the water first. Like that's how ADHD I am. And so when it comes to like doing cool stuff, to catalog it and to see it as, hey, I'm putting this for future me to like rediscover and work on again. I think it's a really cool idea. Yeah.
One last thing on that topic, referencing back to Joseph Norman. He used to tell his students that you can make the perfect painting once and it means nothing. You got to do it 100 times. And perfect is an interchangeable word in this instance. It's like being able to iterate on an idea is the most important part of art. Like, so being able to say like, okay, I put that coffee idea is written. And then when you get to finally sit down and explore it, and that you realize that coffee idea started here and it ended up over here, and then I made 100 of these, and it's like it wasn't even the original thing that I intended, but like this is where I arrived. Like that's the good stuff.
I love it. So I have so many like questions and things that you've said that I'm just like, yes, yes, like that's awesome.
Yeah, we're kindred brains. I don't know what slug is living in both of our brains, but it's.
So what I've really appreciated is that you have a lot of language for what I think and what I experience and feel, which I'm very bad at explaining to other people, even explaining to myself. So I do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of like thinking. But yeah, it feels like either your roots are deeper or you've just processed this either a lot better or for a lot longer. So like some of the stuff that you've said tonight, for me anyway, today, has just been like, oh, so that's what it's called. Like that's how I would explain it. So thank you for your words and for like helping me to like think about things, the same things, but in a different way, to give language to particular topics, particular things. So yeah, in our next episode, we can get onto a whole bunch of other stuff. But maybe to end, what are your like in 6 months or a year, like what are you hoping to achieve and how are you planning on getting there? If there is anything that's pretty big or that you want to achieve.
Oh man. So what? Yes. Yeah. I will pick my and then because I wrote about this recently, in the next 6 months, what I would like to achieve is the conscious pursuit of separation of my fine art and my art business. I'd like to develop that more, specifically with improving the content that I make, it being more consistent with it, and creating more channels or opportunities for revenue that I probably wouldn't have considered years ago. So like big picture, moving in the direction of like merchandise, be it like plushies or clothing or things, like creating better content engines and channels in relation to my own work and letting that be a separate thing than the fine art that I make every day.
Amazing. How are you planning on achieving that? What systems are you hoping to set up to get there?
Yeah, that's a good question. In the past, I've explored growth through a number of different ways. Locally, here in Athens, Georgia, I've met a pretty decent community of people who enjoy my work. And then I've found engagement on Twitter through the Avalanche community. And then when I was doing my Twitch streams during the pandemic. And so I would like to combine those things and make more video content again, and just be more out there with the sort of scribbles and doodles. So mentioned earlier, going to try the real thing. Not really sold on it, but I'm going to try it again. And then on the side of that, I've been reading this lovely book called Content Inc., which is the content first approach rather than product first approach. And so that's why for me, I think it's important that I have a lot of friends in these circles that I've established. I would like to learn how to grow more on social media. Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. Grow on social media. And exactly how to do that, I think it's posting different kinds of content and trying different things out and seeing what is working for me and what is also working inside of the algorithm. Okay.
Yeah, I think that marketing, whatever it is, like social media marketing, content, social, it's tricky. And as an artist, it often takes like a different set of skills. And again, it's just like the more you practice, the more you put out there, the better you're going to get. And yeah, it does require a little bit of, both consistency and maybe like a little bit of a sprint at some stages to like level up. I remember when I first started in NFTs, I was nothing. Like I had like 300, 200 followers on Twitter. And over the course of a year, I think I gained 7,000 followers or something, which, some people are like, yeah, I do that in a day or whatever. But for me, like there was a direct like correlation between the amount of effort, the consistency of posting, the way that I would respond to people, and the engagement that I got, which then would mean that I'd be like, hey, I'm dropping something new. And then no matter what it was, people would buy it. Which goes to show it's like, it's not necessarily your content that's bad or what you're selling that's bad. It's just like getting eyeballs to what you're selling,
Yes.
And it's almost like two different kinds of ways of thinking. But yeah, that's awesome. And dude, I have so many more things I'd like to chat about. Like you mentioned business. I'm like, oh, business. Like we should chat about that, But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up now and looking forward to an episode in the future again with you. So I'm going to pop up your website here, scribblewarlock.com. If you're listening, go check it out. I will leave it in the show notes. If you're watching, go have a look at scribblewarlock.com. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Instagram as well. There are going to be reels coming out. And yeah, his stuff is really cool. Amazing. I love it. Scribbles, doodles. I love the king shit stuff. I love the meme stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. As our very first guest on the very first episode of this thing that I don't quite know what it is yet, but I had fun. I hope you had fun. I hope the guys and girls listening, watching, hope you guys had fun listening to this.
I had a blast. Thank you for your time and your kindness, Rich. This was an absolute honor.
Awesome. Is there anything that you want to like end with? Just like a bam or a boom? You don't have to.
No, just yeah, drink some water. That's what I'm about to do.
Guys. 2 glasses, guys. Just drink water. Man, that's awesome. I'm gonna stop it now.
Heck yeah. Peace and love.